happening right now on Sports Extra. The Braves, they are one of the best teams in all of Major League Baseball right now, but can they sustain it? Now the Hawks are down 1-0 to the Knicks. What they need to do to come back to Atlanta with an even series. Plus, Dream President Morgan Shaw Parker, she is in the studio to discuss the team's massive offseason moves.
We are out to win a championship in service of Atlanta, in service of the fans that we seek to serve. And so we're really excited, and I think we're building a team and an atmosphere that I think a lot of folks in Atlanta want to be a part of.
And on top of everything else going on right now, it's NFL Draft Week. What will the Falcons do, and could they trade up to the first round? So much to talk about tonight. A lot coming your way. Sports Extra starts now. All right, it's that time of the year where we're all a little bit cross-eyed. We got a lot going on. There's so much to talk about, and two of the best are in-house to do it with me. Home team Brandon Leak exactly next to me. So we got playoff basketball. How are you feeling?
It is the great time of the year. Baseball and playoff basketball at the same time with the draft coming up.
And the NFL never stops.
Oh, it's always going on.
And Angel Reese is in town, and I mean, you name it.
We have an all-star joining a bunch of all-stars.
It's so much fun to be in Atlanta right now. Joe Patrick from 92.9 The Game on the far side of the table over there. How excited are you for everything, especially the NFL draft?
I'm super excited, obviously, for the draft, covering the Falcons, but I was just talking to Home Team before.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a longtime Hawks fan, and It's just so fun to see them back in this playoff environment. You know, we've seen them in the playoff, the play-in games and such, but to be in a true 7-game series, especially against this Knicks team, this team has a lot of history against. It's always fun when it's against the Knicks. The
Knicks fans are dying for Trae Young to just appear out of nowhere, I think, and throw some shade on him, but that era is over. What's a new era is this looks like it's going to be a very entertaining series. I was very entertained by Game 1 between the Hawks and the Knicks home team. What did you like about the way that it started and ultimately how you hope it finishes?
Well, the Hawks proved what we already knew. They can play with anyone. It was just could they close and deal with the different style of play of playoff basketball. Runs in the playoffs cause more damage to you at the end of the game, and they had a couple of chances. A great way for them to get back into the game late, but I think the lessons learned, you have to match what superstars do. You have to make sure when runs are available, you take advantage of them, and you can't let 3 guys go off. 2 guys might be something you can corral, but 3 guys going off when they had OG Anunoby adding to it, it was just too much, and the Knicks handled business, and they're a veteran playoff team, so we learned a lesson from that in Game 1.
Like you mentioned it, collectively the Knicks have a lot of playoff experience under their belt. The Hawks, they do not have that, especially not together as a group. You saw the cutaway at the end of Ben Stiller going Knicks in 5. We're hoping that that doesn't happen, Joe. Game 2 is a pivotal one in any playoff series. How do you feel that's going to change the trajectory of this series if the Hawks win or lose?
Yeah, I mean, it would be huge. I mean, to take a game when you're on the road is obviously really important for any team, but especially when you're the underdog, to be able to kind of set that up when you then come back home and take the series back home. Frankly, I'm more encouraged about the Falcons in this, or I'm sorry, the Hawks in this series after having watched this game, where I felt like they were able to cause the Knicks some trouble. I feel like what the Hawks can do defensively is really effective at this time of year in the playoffs, where you get away with a little bit more physical play. So I thought that the fact that they did not look overshadowed or overmatched by the spectacle of the NBA playoffs there in Madison Square Garden, I think that portends really good things for this team, and maybe they can potentially steal one in Game 2 and then come back home with that little advantage in their pocket.
I think that probably turned a few heads. The way they started that game, I thought it was electric. You can watch Game 2 right here on 11 Alive on Monday night, and when you do, you got to remember that those runs that Home Team talked about earlier ultimately are what affect wins and losses. You mentioned it, in the third quarter, that was really too much for the Hawks to overcome, but they were right there in it in the fourth quarter. What did you learn about the way they closed out that game in Game 1?
It was big. You had somebody like C.J. McCollum, when you do have a veteran that has seen every type of playoff scenario, and he was once, the star cog for the Portland Trailblazers when they were in a different power band. But I think what it came down to was they got enough from their star in Jalen Brunson. He had 17 points. You survived that in the first quarter. We need a little bit more from Jalen Johnson, who was not afraid to shoot the ball. It just wasn't efficient, and he missed some bunnies. Dyson Daniels, who we don't count on to shoot a whole bunch of jumpers, he missed a layup, shot a 3-footer 2 feet, and it's those things are the things that accumulate at the end. But I think bottom line, your scorers need to score, and you have to eliminate a third man, which is what the Knicks had, and we have to find our third man along with our first two men, because Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he wasn't afraid to shoot, but he only shot 35% from the floor.
Joe, how do you mitigate the damage from guys like Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson? Because at the beginning of this game, home team's touching on this a little bit. CJ McCollum and Jalen Brunson, it looks like they were trading shots. It was crazy. How do you mitigate the damage from those two guys?
Yeah, I think what Quinn Snyder is going to do in this series is just throw bodies at these guys. Whether it's Jalen Brunson, whether it's Karl Anthony Towns, the Hawks have these wing players who present mismatches for opponents with their length, and sometimes even with the bigger guys like a Karl Anthony Towns, you get maybe an undersized Onyeka Okongwu who's got some better feet, who can cause him some problems that he's not necessarily accustomed to dealing with. And I think that that's the best way. It's just a kind of it's kind of a cliche, but it's just keep hammering. You just keep going at them. And these playoff series is oftentimes very much a battle of attrition. Like, can you wear down your opponent over the course of a 7-game series? And so I think that's the best course of action for the Hawks.
Jalen Brunson, when he's feeling it, especially at the Garden, it is a dangerous sight, and you don't want to see that very often. Hopefully not in Game 2. Home team, final thing from you. Jalen Johnson didn't have as big of a game as we probably would have liked from Jalen. What do you want to see from him on Monday?
He did what he was supposed to do. He was a part of the offense. He was not doing anything wild. And I think it's more of a question, I think, for Quinn Snyder. Are there moments where he will be allowed to take over? Because, he passed the ball when he needed to, but you can't worry about the shots you miss early in the game. It's about the shots you can make at the end of the game. And so he didn't make a lot of shots and a lot of close shots. So I'm thinking those shots right at the rim, those will go in Game 2. But the ability to take over a game. Look, Brunson's on a hot streak. Can we give the offense or him the green light to get on a hot streak as well to maybe mitigate some of the damage, and then maybe have us positioned for a steal in Game 2, which would create a madhouse for Game 3 here at State Farm Arena.
There is nothing like playoff basketball at State Farm Arena. And if they come off of a win at Madison Square Garden, collect your thoughts and everything else, because it's going to be wild. Hopefully the Hawks have a better night offensively in Game 2, and they can steal one right here on 11 Alive. Switching gears to baseball, how hot are the Braves right now? This is such a change from last year, really. They started off 0-7 last year, and now all of a sudden they're the only team in baseball that haven't lost a series. Joe, is this sustainable from the Braves?
I mean, to go, they're going to win the whole. They're going to go the whole season without losing the series. Absolutely, it's absolutely sustainable. Now, I do think that just when you compare to last year, it is a much easier schedule this year. I mean, if you recall back to last year, they started with the Padres and then the Dodgers in those opening 7 games, and they went 0-7 in those. But I think the big difference for the Braves so far this season is just that they're hitting more consistently throughout the order. You're getting contributions from guys in those 6, 7, 8 roles, spots in the order, where this team just was not getting enough from basically anybody in its lineup throughout the majority of last season. So that's what we came to know this Braves team to be, and the bats just basically went cold for much of last year. So if they can keep up this kind of thing, which does sometimes feel like magic when you've got Dominic Smith and some of these guys hitting like this, but sometimes that's what these teams need to be successful and be consistent over the course of a season.
You transition so well. Dominic Smith is one of the best stories in baseball. He was a guy that made absolutely no noise in spring training when they signed him late to a minor league deal, and all of a sudden this guy is responsible for some of the bigger moments that we've seen so far this season. Home team, how awesome is it to see Dominic Smith shine the way he does and the contributions he has at the plate?
He's so grateful, and it's one of those stories where a guy who's humble but also aggressive, it all kind of merges together. And he's coming up, I call him Big Hit Dom. We've been on our show on the Locker Room on 680 Fan trying to come up with a nickname for him, and I call him Big Hit Dom because he keeps coming up with hits that matter. He had a series-saving hit. He has had a grand slam. He has really come through, and now he is a part of a crew with him and Drake Baldwin and the guys who weren't supposed to be coming up with the bigger hits. They're coming up with the bigger hits, and it's allowing Austin Riley and Ronald Acuna Jr. to kind of get into their flow, and now we're seeing Austin Riley get his hot stick going. So it really has been everybody. You can get it from anywhere in this Braves lineup, which makes it one of the most dangerous in all of baseball.
Walt Weiss said he always believed in Dom Smith because he was watching him from afar, and then his relationship dates back with him forever. So he had a lot of confidence in him. Now we're seeing why, because he's been so fantastic at the plate for the Braves this season. When you think about Austin Riley, home team mentioned it, Joe, he's notoriously kind of a streaky player, and sometimes it takes him a little while to get going. 2 Oppo home runs from Austin Riley means something's cooking for him. What do you want to see from him to get him on the right track?
Yeah, when you see those balls flying out to right center, like you just mentioned, that shows you that a player like Austin Riley, especially those right-handed hitters hitting it to right center, that's when you know that they're in a groove. And it's kind of easy to forget that Austin Riley was such a potent hitter for this Braves team, hitting upwards of 35 homers, and I think he's showing that he can be that guy again. But it's worth noting, and you mentioned it, Maria, in both those years where he topped 30 homers, he got off to a bit of a slow start in each of those years. So This isn't something that's necessarily out of the usual for him, and I think, if he can continue on this, if he can use this as a launching pad, so to speak, then who knows what the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, if he's good, the Braves will be good. If he's great, the Braves can be great. So it's good that whatever has worked out early in the season for him this year, it continues to work. And he'll go through ups and downs, but figuring out how to get it back to be great, that will make the big difference in how far I believe the Braves will go all season long.
And don't forget, the starting rotation has been solid, and Spencer Strider is starting his rehab, so he's inching closer and closer to coming back here to Atlanta. Coming up, everybody, it's officially NFL Draft Week, one we have been waiting for what feels like forever. What could the Falcons have in store for us later this week? We'll break that down next. The NFL Draft gets going on Thursday. The Falcons, as we sit here today, only have 5 picks in this draft. Something tells me that's not going to be the case this weekend. New general manager Ian Cunningham, he's been pretty adamant for a while, Joe, that he loves draft capital. It's got to come from somewhere. Give me a realistic situation in which this does actually happen for the Falcons.
I was going to ask if he told you personally that he's making the trade, because he's basically been messaging that in the public. He's basically saying, I love draft picks. It almost says to me, he just has fun making draft picks, and he wants more picks. I think, the best scenario for a trade down for the Falcons in this draft is probably with that first pick that they have in the second round, because that's the area of the draft where you can there are some prospects that teams might really be honed in on and think, I have to get this receiver or this defensive lineman, and we can only do that if we go up here, as opposed to the situation that the Falcons have where, Ian Cunningham, after having done all the free agency moves, they don't really have, they have some needs, of course, we're going to talk about that, I'm sure, but they're not really pressed to have to have this particular thing. And so I think they're better positioned to kind of be able to choose some different options during the draft where other teams might not, and that could be a situation that provides value in terms of draft picks.
They are thin everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
They
need help across the board.
They need D-line. They need linebackers. You can use cornerbacks. Who's the second wide receiver? We do have Brian Robinson Jr. for now, but what do we want to do with the totality of the running back room and special teams? So, if he trades back, I don't think anybody is going to be upset about that. You don't have a day 1 pick anyway, so we're going to have to wait and see what he does. And then next year really is when he really gets a full draft and more money to spend with his salary cap clearing up a little bit. So I would not be surprised at all if Ian Cunningham, with whatever he wants to, trades back in the NFL draft just to put some meat on the bones of the roster.
Yeah, you talk about draft needs. I was going to say, Joe, we're not talking about draft needs because we don't have time for that because the Falcons do, to Home Team's point, need a lot of different things, hard to accomplish with just 5 picks. They also made a trade this week. Ruggiero, who, remember, they traded up for whenever he came to Atlanta. He is off to Jacksonville. In return, the Falcons are going to get Mason Smith. What does that move tell you, if anything, Joe?
Well, it tells you certainly that they wanted a different profile of defensive linemen than what they had in Ruggiero. If you look at some of the gradings, like, for example, Pro Football Focus does this, he was one of the worst run defenders in the NFL that, qualified under the amount of snaps that he got. And the Falcons really need a run stopper. They need that big body, that wide body in the middle that can help clog things up. And so, Mason Smith is a bigger defensive lineman, I would say, than Ruggiero. Still probably not like a true nose tackle like we've been talking about. But yeah. They're both young prospects. It's one of the reasons why the trade is a little confusing, because they're basically just swapping second-round picks that they made in the same draft. So it's a little unusual from that perspective, but I think it's mainly about just the type of defensive lineman that they're really looking for to shore up their roster.
Yeah, the Falcons' run defense was terrible. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's liked the look better. And Rook had a chance when Grady Jarrett left last year, was his chance to show, like some of the other young players, he could certainly anchor himself as a starter, and it doesn't look like on film. Ian Cunningham liked what he saw, so he made a move.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes this happens. I saw one tweet that said, your project for my project, which essentially that's kind of what their position is at this point. So we'll see if they can get something out of Mason, or if they draft a defensive lineman. They potentially will. I don't know that they will now. What do you think the fair expectations are for Ian Cunningham in this draft, home team?
You know, I think just get players that will be here for a while. He's coming in, he's got 5 picks, so you can't really transform an offense or a defense with 5 players. Just pick players that we think 3 years from now, or not think that 3 years from now, will be here. They'll be a part of the roster. They'll be impactful players. What you want is so many guys on the team, you have to let guys go because you can't pay everybody. And hopefully that's a problem he runs into. What I hope he does figure out is how to get some linebackers or some defensive linemen that can impact this year, because with a thin roster you have, if injury shows up, which it will in the NFL, you don't want your team to not have enough to compete for 17 weeks.
You got 5 seconds.
Be safe. Stop with the moonshots. I mean, this team has taken enough, moonshot attempts in the draft over the last few years. Go for safety, somebody who you feel can reliably play for you for a few years.
And they did a whole lot in free agency, so we'll see what happens in the draft. It starts on Thursday. Coming up, we are excited for the Dream season to begin. I know you guys are as well. Dream President and COO Morgan Shaw Parker. She's in the studio and takes us behind the curtain on the Angel Reese trade. I am just so thrilled to be joined by the one and only, the President and Chief Operating Officer of the Atlanta Dream, Morgan Shaw Parker, who has been running crazy the last 3 weeks. It's unbelievable, the timeline that's been happening in the W, but have you had a chance to catch your breath?
Not really. We are right in the middle of training camp already, and for the last 3 weeks, it has been wild. The CBA has created a very condensed offseason for us, and I can say we are ready to go and fired up to get out there on the court.
We'll start with Angel Reese, the blockbuster deal that brings her here to Atlanta. What a move for this organization, and the seismic activity that was felt in the W after it was announced. What was the reaction that you felt from people in and outside of your building after this was announced?
Well, seismic is a really great word, because when it was announced, obviously there was a core small team in the office that knew it was happening, but none of the rest of the office knew it.
Wow.
And when the article came out first, I just saw heads popping up around the office saying, oh my God, is this real? Is this real?
Cool.
And then 40 people come running around to the office, and they're dancing and doing their TikToks and all the things. And it was just the most special atmosphere. But we looked back and we tracked it, and it was almost 100% positive sentiment for Angel coming to this city. And that's truly special when you think about someone who belongs here, a city who wants to embrace her, and a city who just loves what we're doing already.
In her opening press conference, she said, look, I think Atlanta speaks for itself. To me, Atlanta and Angel Reese click so seamlessly, and it makes so much sense. Why do you believe that the Atlanta Dream makes sense for Angel Reese?
You know, it's a great question, Maria. Angel embodies everything that the Dream stands for. But what's amazing is that we have built this brick by brick by brick. And Angel has built her own game brick by brick, her brand brick by brick by brick. And she is so additive to what we've already got here, and so humble to be here. She's an icon already, but yet, as you saw within the opening press conference, she kept tossing it to everyone else. And that's what I love. That is an embodiment of what Atlanta stands for, and it really is an embodiment of what this team stands for, and Angel just came in and fit right in.
Angel feels what a lot of us do. There is something different about the atmosphere around the Atlanta Dream right now, and it's not easy. It's not like that was built overnight. You've been working really hard for years in order to accomplish that feeling that Angel was so bought into in order for her to come here.
Yeah.
How'd you do it?
Yeah. Well, how much time do you have?
Tons. Go ahead.
You know, we have been under new ownership for a little over 5 years. And as you know, we were named by the city of Atlanta after Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, the I Have a Dream speech. And, you know, we needed to make sure that Atlanta knew that we were authentic and that we were really about the work and that we could live into and live up to his name. I'm really, really proud of what this organization has become and literally what the next 5 years is going to look like.
You bring up the next 5 years. When I read these names to you, Alicia Gray, Brianna Jones, Naz Hillman, Jordan Canada, Angel Reese, and Ryan Howard. When you hear those names reeled off to you, This is what you guys have built. What do you think about it?
Well, Carl said it best when Dan Padover asked Carl what he wanted to do after last season, and it was an incredible last season. He said, I want to run it back. And to be able to sign Angel Reese and then go and sign all 5 of our core players, it really is a win now and win in the future mentality. This group of amazing athletes is unlike any other team in the W. I don't think there's ever been a team here poised to win like we are.
I'll tell you, in our office, even before Angel Reese got here, everyone kept asking us, how do I get to an Atlanta Dream game? I want to go. But now that Angel is here, it's just exploded to another degree. I am very grateful that you came into the studio today. Morgan, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, Maria.
Guys, I'll be right back. In honor of the NFL draft, I want to get these guys hot takes for a bold prediction, whatever they want to do. What do you think's going to happen? Joe, you're first.
I do not think this team is going to draft a defensive tackle in this draft. I'll say if they keep their 5 picks that they currently have, because ultimately I don't think that there's going to be one that's worth drafting outside of maybe the first pick that they have. And we talked earlier in the show about the Ruka-Roro trade. That to me just signals they're trying to cover that base before you get to the draft. So no defensive tackle, interior defensive.
Okay, so with an addendum, home team, what about you?
I think this is going to be one of the craziest drafts we've seen.
Let's
I
go.
think the first 20 guys, we're going to know them, and then there's going to be a bunch of trades after that. So I think a lot of guys are going to be picked, and then a lot of guys are going to be moved, and we'll see how much the Falcons get in on that action.
Mine's going to be a little bit psychotic because I like to ruffle the feathers.
I love psychotic. Right?
I think the Falcons are going to draft Haynes King.
Oh, wow.
That's a hot take.
The reason why I add this is because he has done a visit with the Falcons. He embodies the mentality that I believe that the Falcons front office has and wants for its players. So who knows? Let's ruffle up some feathers.
He would help with the run game.
Yeah, short yardage.
He'd help with a lot of things and competing too. We'll see you next Sunday.